Hey everyone, it's Argonath here from Return of the Fan, and another stupid article on Kotaku about the game Stray and how it apparently does some cultural appropriation from the Asian culture. And again, it's just ridiculous stuff from these left-wing weirdos that are in mainstream media. So if you haven't heard about Stray, it's basically a game where you play a cat and you wander around this amazing world and do cat things. Not a game for me, but I'm sure that other people probably like it. I mean, I guess if I played it, maybe I'd like it, but it doesn't really interest me that much. But that's not what this article is about. So the headline is Stray falls into the usual Orientalism pitfalls of the cyberpunk genre. The cat simulation game appropriates Asian aesthetics, but doesn't grapple with the walled city's historical legacy. What the hell are you going on about? Just get rid of that. Message by CC Jiang, whoever that is. If you felt uncomfortable about the rice paddy hats in Stray, you aren't the only one. Stray lifts Asian aesthetics to evoke exoticism and danger, but it doesn't engage with the history of the city it appropriates. This is especially problematic because its real-world setting carries painful historical baggage that can't be reduced to nuance. What the hell are all these people on about, man? It's just a friggin' game about a cat going on about a world. When people play this game, they're not thinking back to what happened hundreds of years ago or anything. When they see a robot wearing a rice paddy hat, they don't really give a shit. With more than 3 million people per square mile, the walled city was the most densely packed city in world history. The streets were lit by neon signs because the buildings didn't allow much natural light to filter in from above. Developers of Stray told USA Today that the walled city of Hong Kong was the perfect playground for a cat. The artists at Blue 12 Studios were inspired by how the real-life city was organically constructed and was filled with details and interesting points of view, such as the air conditioning units and exposed pipes. And they weren't the only ones who admired the environment. Photographers, architects lauded the ingenuity of the ways people lived without safety codes or centralized government. But that organic construction came about for painful historical reasons. The walled city was originally a Qing dynasty era military base. It became a separate enclave of British-controlled Hong Kong after China was weakened by the Sino-Japanese War. Japan, China and Britain all tried to lay claim to the walled city throughout its history. To ease international tensions, both China and Great Britain eventually gave up trying to govern the walled city after the end of World War II. The ensuing lawlessness fermented organised crime and opium dens. The tri-gangs turned enclave into epicenter of Hong Kong narcotics trade. None of this content is particularly apparent when you explore the dusty streets of walled city. They just took inspiration from the city. It's not supposed to be the actual real-life city. And even if it was, they don't want to have that kind of stuff in a game because it's a freaking game about a cat. Oh my god. Jesse Lam, a video game concept artist whose family originates from Hong Kong, explains, "This was super packed city block full of crime and destitution, thanks triads that it took decades until it was finally demolished. We don't talk about the high-rise coffin-sized apartment rooms these days. There is muted anger there. The history of the walled city is inextricably linked to the colonial rivalries, but none of it is represented in Stray because it's a friggin' game about a cat. For F's sake. In the game, the city was a shelter built to protect humans from the plague. It's a game. The only sentient beings left are self-aware robot companions who have built their own society in humanity's absence. I later appreciated their charming personalities, but when I first met the robots, my first thought was, why are they wearing rice paddy hats? Well, what do you want them to wear? Do you want them to wear a bowler hat? Wouldn't that be appropriating the English culture? Do you want them to wear a baseball hat? Wouldn't that be appropriating American culture? Who gives a flying F? Oh my god, these so-called journalists. So it talks about what the rice paddy hats are about and all that kind of stuff. Oh my god. Thankfully, Stray meets the bare minimum of not racist language to describe the robots, even if its gratuitous use of the Japanese language in fictional Hong Kong is a bit eyebrow-raising. It's a freaking game! Doesn't really care if the game is. They don't give a shit. But the game's rampant appropriation of Asian history and culture needs to be supported by care in design and implementation. Singapore-based Alexis Ong wrote an excellent Polygon article about Australia's accuracy to Hong Kong, while others like Lam are less impressed by how the game portrayed the walled city. Oh man, it goes on and on and on and on. I just wanted to play a cute game without the techno-orientalism. Then don't play it. Right, if it gets you that much, don't play it then. Unfortunately, Stray does not interrogate its creative influence at all, because it's a friggin' game about a cat. How many times do I have to say this? And from the moment the developers decided to base their game off an enclave that was created by British colonialism, they had a response. No, they didn't. They just took it as inspiration for the city. No one gives a shit. None of the players give a shit. Only you give a shit because you're a friggin' journalist on left-wing Kotaku. Let's read some of the comments, because I'm sure this will be really funny. I'll start this by saying that anyone is free to feel insulted by whatever they feel insulted by, but I, as an Asian American living in a third world country, really think that this criticism is stretching it a bit. The article itself outlines what could be the in-game explanation to why casa hats, I'm a Japanese descendant, could be commonplace outside rice paddies, which is the same reason a lot of people never touched a baseball bat use baseball caps fashion. That just didn't make sense. Anyway, casa are not fashionable in modern day Earth, but as a fictional setting. Yes, because it's a friggin' game. This person gets it. Also, these hats are a common trope in the cyberpunk genre because it's not used to punch down on Eastern culture. If anything, it's a way to know Eastern culture creeping into Western societies and fictional worlds in which Japanese and later Chinese culture became dominant worldwide. Kind of like how everyone uses baseball caps everywhere, but with farming instead of sports. And saying that a game visually inspired by the Kowloon walled city has an obligation to engage with history inside these walls, akin to saying that Lord of the Rings failed to tackle the abuse of serfs and European feudalism, or that Indiana Jones would have been better if it engaged with the Holocaust. One should strive to not make light of other people's suffering and avoid engaging in reductionism, but not all depictions of non-white people have to automatically be political. Brilliant, brilliant comment from Hydorus. Unless you write for Kotaku and are trying to sell being triggered, it's never just about the game here. I think you know exactly what I was going about to type. As soon as I see the word appropriation, I always get the sinking feeling that I am reading a poor research article by a young intern who hasn't travelled enough or seen enough of the world to understand the intersections between art and culture. Oh, yes, that's a good one. Oh, someone agrees with it. Here we go. Very well written, and I agree with almost all of it. The only exception I would like to make are the comparisons. Although they're not saying the article is well written. They're saying that Hydorus's comment is well written. Excellent. Yet the site name is Kotaku. If there was any sense of irony about appropriation being ignored here. I don't know. Is Kotaku Japanese or Chinese? Maybe. Every time a writer here types the word Orientalism in an article, they should consider that fact. Cultural appropriation is limited to America. Go to Japan and wear a traditional kimono as Caucasian, and the Japanese will celebrate sharing their culture with you. Wear one in America as a Caucasian, all of a sudden you're a racist, even though not a single Japanese national would be offended. That is absolutely correct as well. I can't speak for Japanese, but my experience visiting Japan with a Caucasian blonde wife was that they were just happy to share their culture with us. I'm not even talking tourist traps, just regular businesses. I actually don't think using a real life aesthetic makes you have a responsibility to grapple with history. I see the rice hat idea as being a bit more questionable, but they didn't insert a painful history lesson about the real life community as a plus. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. I mean, I guess these people on mainstream media have to write about something, and these days to get the clicks they need to try and be controversial, and if they want to basically just feel triggered all the time, then go ahead and do it. You're just going to keep losing readers as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, check out Stray if you think it might be fun playing a cat and wandering around an amazing city. That might be cool. It's not for me, obviously, but I don't trust any reviews on mainstream media. If you want reviews of games and stuff, go and watch YouTube reviews. At least you can see them playing the game. And most YouTubers who don't get early access to games and so on will give you a very honest opinion. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, you're welcome to give it a thumbs down. And if you like my content, please subscribe as well. Catch you next time.